Hi there, this is Tony from pianotone.ca, and this is my review on the Roland Go Keys 5 Arranger keyboard. Note that this review also applies to the Go Keys 3, which is exactly the same as the 5, except the 5 has bigger speakers, left and right line out ports, a mic input with effects, and an extra USB port. Now, if you follow my channel, you probably know I'm usually a Yamaha guy, but I have to say these new Go Keys keyboards are absolutely amazing. Roland has really set a new standard for features here. Enough so that I immediately ordered my own Go Keys 5, and it's likely to become my new superboardable keyboard option, beating out my Yamaha PSR EW425. While the prior Go Keys and Go Piano keyboards were decent products, they didn't impress me anywhere near as much as these new models, which are far more advanced. So given how many features Roland has packed into these keyboards, this review is going to be a bit long, even though I'm going to just briefly touch on some of the features. So if you want to skip ahead to sections you're interested in, there are links in the description below for you. If not, then grab your favorite beverage and a snack and sit back and relax and check out the Roland Go Keys 5. Okay, so just a quick feature summary. Given the huge feature list, I thought I would summarize it for you. There's 61 piano-shaped and true full-size synth action keys with 9 levels of touch response. There's 1,154 sounds that come from the Zencore sound engine. Same sound engine as in the Roland Phantom. It's expandable. 93 multi and 15 global effects. There's 4 types of reverb and 256 notes of polyphony. There's 203 arranger styles, also expandable, with mutable parts and 4 variations. There's 4 fingering options for chord detection, including 2 full keyboard detection options, and there's some other unique features built into that. There's a chord sequencer with 304 built-in chord patterns, and you can enter your own chord chart as well, and play any of these back using any of the arranger styles. There's 256 user scenes. These are your registrations. There's an onboard MIDI recorder. You can record up to 99 songs, and you can record audio in WAV format to a USB flash drive. There's a really good user interface with a context-sensitive screen. There's dedicated buttons for common features like transpose, octave shift, split and layer, and a well-thought-out workflow. There's a pitch bend wheel. Connectivity is decent on the Go Keys 3 and borderline spectacular on the Go Keys 5, which adds in some gigging extras like mic inputs with effects and gain, as well as proper left and right line-out ports. It's super portable at only 11 pounds, and it can run on 8 AA batteries. Speakers, the wattage on both models seems to be a big secret. It's not documented on Roland's site anywhere. The Go Keys 3 has 2 12 by 6 centimeter speakers. The Go Keys 5 has 2 5 centimeter speakers with a speaker box and 2 radiators. Okay, first things first, check for updates. Unlike a lot of the competition in this range, Roland actually does provide regular updates. So before I get started on the review, here is how you can check your version and update it if necessary. Press the menu button, then use the arrows to scroll all the way to the right to information, and then press enter. And you can see I've got version 1.03, build number 64. So you can look on Roland's site for the most current version that you can download, and if it's newer, then you're going to want to grab it. Now to do that, you're going to need a flash drive, and it's always a good idea to format the flash drive using the keyboard. So I'm going to do that first. So I'm going to hit exit here. Then I'm going to scroll over to Utility and press Enter. And then I'm going to scroll all the way to the right. And then I've got Format. I'll press Enter. Do you want to format? Are you sure? Move to the OK button. Press Enter, and then format my flash drive. So now I'm just going to take my flash drive to the computer and copy the update file onto it. And then I'll be right back. Okay, so I've copied the file onto the root folder of my flash drive, and it's back in the Go Keys. And what I want to do here is hold down this is on the Go Keys 5. You hold down the mic button, and then I'm going to turn the power off and then turn it back on. If this was the Go Keys 3, I'd be holding down the Bluetooth button and turning the power off and the power back on. Then the message update is going to appear on the display, and the update's going to start. And you have to hold down that mic or Bluetooth button until the update little sign appears on the screen. Then you can let it go. Then once the message says update finished, then you can turn the keyboard back off and then back on again. So I'm going to do that. I won't be talking during this because I'm not going to be able to get the mic set up properly. It's probably not going to work when it's updating anyways. But let's take a crack at that. Okay, so it looks like we're back. Let's check that version again. I press menu and I'm going to scroll all the way to the right and check information, press enter, and looks like we're updated to version 1.04, build number 71. Okay, so key action. I thought I'd start by talking about the one thing none of us can just go look up on the internet, and that's the key action. When I ordered my GoKeys 5, I already knew about most of the super cool features that this keyboard has, but the one thing I didn't know about, because no stores in my area had any stock so I could go try them, was the key action. From my online research before I bought, I knew that it wasn't a fully weighted and graded hammer action, and I also knew that it had box-shaped piano-style keys. And since prior Roland Go's actually had true full-size keys as opposed to the narrower keys you're going to find on synth action keyboards from Yamaha and Casio, I was hopeful that that would still be the case with these new models as well. Well, when I unboxed it, I could immediately see that, like the prior models, the GoKeys 5 does have true full-size keys. The octave width is a proper 164 millimeters, so great job there, Roland. And I also noticed that the keys have a matte finish on them as opposed to the glossy keys you're going to find on Yamahas. I've got to admit, when I first tried the key action, I wasn't super impressed. I actually found the keys to be pretty slippery. When trying to do quick scale runs, my fingers would slip off. I also found the black keys aren't as high as normal, which was a bit strange and might have also contributed to my fingers slipping. But I also have to say that after playing it for a day or two, I got used to it really quickly, and my opinion has totally changed. I now really like the action, it just took a bit to get used to. I don't know if it is actually semi-weighted or not, but it definitely feels semi-weighted to me. I play mostly on a true semi-weighted action on my Hammond SK Pro, and sometimes on the fully weighted piano action on my Yamaha DGX 670, and the weight on this Roland does definitely feel semi-weighted. And while the action is really quiet when you play normally, which is great, if you do a piano glissando or an organ smear, the key snapping back into place is really loud, so keep that in mind, especially if you've got a mic close to your keys. So overall, how would I rate the action on the GoKeys 5 and 3? I love the fact that the keys are true full size and have an almost semi-weighted feel to them. They're a good compromise for being able to play piano pieces expressively as well as playing non-piano sounds like organ. And keep in mind that there are 9 levels of touch sensitivity available, so you can really dial into a setting that fits your playing style. The only real negative about the action is the snapping noise during glissandos. So how does the action compare to some other keyboards? For playing piano pieces, I would rank the GoKeys action as far better than the Superlight synth action on Yamaha PSR E-Series keyboards, and also a bit better than the action on Casio Tone keyboards like the CTS-1, mostly since the Casio Tones aren't true full-size keys. The only non-fully weighted keyboard close to this price range that might have a more realistic piano action to me would be the Corgliano. Okay, sounds, and a little bit about Zencore. So the sounds on the GoKeys 5 and 3 are courtesy of Roland's Zencore sound engine. So what is Zencore? To be honest, I'm just learning about it myself, but the basic idea is that Zencore is a massive repository of sounds that can be used by both compatible software, so sound engines, DAW software, that kind of thing, as well as compatible hardware. So Roland keyboards, like the famous Roland Phantom synthesizers, the Roland FPE50 gets some sounds from the Zencore, and others like this new Go series. And the most attractive feature, at least for some, is you can download new sounds and new styles as well, which I will get into in a bit. So the Go Keys 5 and 3 come with a staggering 1154 sounds already built in, and another staggering feature for a keyboard in this price range, 256 notes of polyphony. So how do you possibly find the voices you want? I'm going to go over that in the user interface section, but there's multiple ways to zero in on your sounds. Roland did a pretty good job with that. One thing to note is that there are some symbols associated for each sound that you're going to notice in the menu when you scroll through sounds. PR is for Go Keys presets, CM is common, CD is common drum, U is user, UD is user drum, EX are wave expansion tones, and ED are wave expansion drums. The voices can be layered or split, and with an assignable split point. And all of this is done quite easily with dedicated buttons right on the front panel and a really good menu workflow. And you can do a ton of customization for each tone as well. For each tone, you can set volume level, panning, default octave range, plus or minus 3 octaves. You can set portamento and mono poly options. You can set cutoff, resonance, attack, decay, and release levels. You can determine whether the pitch bend is on or off and whether modulation is on or off. You can also decide whether or not hold is on or off. That's basically whether or not to make the sustain pedal active. And you can also activate or deactivate the expression pedal. The expression pedal is typically used to adjust the effects level that are assigned to that particular tone. Then there's also the effects type, and you can choose between 93 available effects. And for you organ players, there are multiple rotary speaker options that allow you to control the speed with the expression pedal. So on the topic of effects, keep in mind that in addition to the 93 tone-specific effects, there's also 15 global effects at your disposal that include things like flangers, phasers, chorus, panning, and more. So for the built-in tones, all of these tone settings have already been done for you right out of the box with appropriate levels, settings, and effects already set up. And if you want to customize voices further to your own liking, you can do that and save your changes within one of the 256 available scenes, which I'm going to be talking about later. So lots of sounds, lots of customization and effects available, and you can even add new sounds. But how do they sound? Well, with this many tones, I've only just started testing them out myself. I've spent most of my time, as you would expect, on the pianos, electric pianos, organs, strings, and pads. But my overall thoughts, the sounds I've been testing so far are great and totally usable live or in recordings. There are 36 acoustic pianos, 6 pop pianos, and 4 electric grands. So as you would expect with 1,154 voices, lots to choose from. The main acoustic grand piano does sound very much like Roland to me. It sounds very full and a bit on the bassier side when compared to the typical brighter piano samples you're going to hear from Yamaha. While it is not as detailed as the main piano sound you're going to have with Roland digital pianos that use their Supernatural piano sound engine, it still sounds really, really good and actually quite similar. Here's a quick demo of just a handful of the sounds that I've been testing out so far. Okay, so the Roland Cloud, downloading new content. If 1154 tones and 203 styles just aren't enough for you, you can download new Zencore tones and styles from the Roland Cloud. You can do that in two ways. You can use Roland Cloud Manager on a PC. You install that app and then you download new content, store that data on a flash drive on your PC, and then use that drive to import new content into your keyboard. Or you can also get the Roland Cloud Connect. This is an actual device you purchase and connect to a port on the keyboard. It's called the Roland WC1 wireless adapter. Costs about $100, but it does include a 1 year Roland Cloud Pro membership, which is worth about $100. That allows you to import new content directly into the keyboard without needing a PC. So what does all this cost? Well, you have some options here. The best choice for you is going to depend on whether or not you might just occasionally want a certain new sound or style, or whether you're a hardcore, I'm always looking for new sounds type of person. If you're the former, which would describe me, you can just get by with a free account and then buy expansion packs a la carte as you want, from anywhere from $5 a pack and up. And then you get a lifetime key for those. Or if you're a bit more hardcore, you can buy various licenses on a monthly or yearly basis that will include various levels of content access. Currently, there are Core, Pro, and Ultimate options. So you can check out Roland's website for more details on those. And if you think you might be interested in an ongoing membership, you might as well buy the WC1 wireless adapter because, as I mentioned, the adapter includes a 1 year Pro level membership and sells for about the same price as that membership sells for. So this not only makes sense from a cost standpoint, but I'm assuming that this adapter is also going to make it much easier to add content to your Go keys. I probably won't be buying one of these for myself, but if I do, I will definitely post a review. Okay, so the user interface on the Go Keys 5 is really well done, and I have to admit, I was kind of surprised. And why is that? Well, I knew when I ordered the Go Keys that it had a ton of functionality, even more than my Yamaha PSR EW425 has. But in previewing it online, I only saw a small display screen and nowhere near as many physical controls. So I was kind of expecting to have to end up deep diving through menu after menu after menu. So what has made me like it now that I've had it for a couple of weeks? Two things. One, Roland included physical buttons to quickly and easily access all of the most commonly needed functions. And two, Roland obviously put a lot of thought and effort into designing the workflow and what context-sensitive information gets displayed on the screen in every situation. So I'll quickly go over the physical buttons first, and then I'll show you some examples on how this workflow functions and why I like it so much. I won't be going into too much detail here, though. I will save that kind of deep diving for some future videos on the channel. But I will try to give you a general sense of how this user interface works. Okay, on the left side, we got the power switch and a nice volume slider, and then the top row of buttons allow you to work with built-in songs, recordings, the chord sequencer, styles, muting style parts, effects, and the arpeggiator. And the row below gives us quick and easy direct access buttons for transposing, octave shifting, arranger options, starting and stopping playback, and adjusting the tempo. Now in the center, we've got the screen, and while it is small, it is super clear and really easy to read, which is a huge improvement over the prior Go Keys models, by the way, and just always seems to be displaying exactly what you want. These 4 buttons below the screen are actually a big part of the user interface. They provide the ability to make quick menu choices on all of these screens as you drill down into various menus. I'll demo that in a bit. Then on the right side, we've got a wheel and some buttons for navigating through menus. The wheel moves through choices, and then there's an exit and enter button, and the left and right navigation buttons. Then the top row of buttons on the right-hand side allows you to access a global menu, work with the scenes, which are your registrations, toggling between single, split, and dual modes. Dual is Roland's word for layer. Mic effects, and turning the mic on or off. The bottom row on the right side includes a home button to help you quickly get out of a nested menu easily, and then category buttons to help you navigate through the crazy number of voices on this keyboard. So let's go back to the menu screen and dig in a bit. It's showing my current voice in the center, and as you can see, it's a single for single mode. Then there's going to be little icons and text and stuff around the perimeter of the screen that are also going to give you a lot of really good, useful information. So right now in the top right-hand corner, you can see it's displaying the current tempo and the current time signature. Then on the top left, it shows my power source. That's supposed to be a little icon of a plug. If I was using batteries, you would see a little battery indicator instead. And if I had Bluetooth turned on, you'd see a little Bluetooth icon up there as well. Now, if you look at the 4 buttons at the bottom, it shows what these will do on the current screen. It's highlighted on the upper voice, which is a concert piano. I can quickly check the lower voice, which is used for splits or layers, and you can see its character strings. And for any of these voices, I could deep dive into a list of voices to choose a different one, or I could press the setting one to edit settings for that voice. So this context-sensitive buttons here are really, really useful. So I'm going to exit out of this area. Now take note of the keyboard visual up here on the left. You can see the full keyboard up there, and we are in single mode. If I press split and dual, it's going to go into split mode. So now it says split, but you can see on the upper voice, I can see the right-hand side of the keyboard. If I go to the left-hand voice, the lower voice, sorry, you'll see the left-hand side of the keyboard. So just an extra little bit of visual indication going on there. And then if I press the split dual button again, it's going to go into dual mode, and you see 2 keyboards layered on top of each other and dual. So small screen, but lots of useful information on there. Okay, so far so good, but what about all these dedicated buttons? Some of them, like octave shifting and transposing, don't need a submenu. For example, if I press octave plus, it's going to say octave shift +1. Then I get a super useful little O+1 at the top of the screen there. Same thing with the transpose. If I want to transpose the keyboard, let's say down a half a step, I'll hold transpose, and then use these same plus and minus buttons. So I'll go down half a step. Then I get a T-1 up at the top of the menu. So small screen, but it's displaying really useful information. And there are a lot of keyboards out there that actually have a lot of dedicated buttons, but yet they still don't have them for octave shifting or transposing. So great job here, Roland. Then for most of the other physical buttons, when you press them, the screen's going to change to appropriate settings, choices, and menus for whatever you've chosen. And navigating that center menu is going to be super simple because of the 4 buttons under the screen that make quick choices super easy. So as I press some of these, say I press the style, you've got a category and a bank down here. If I press arranger, you've got choices to make different choices for your variations, that type of thing. So this makes the workflow for navigating all these menus on such a feature-rich keyboard much easier than endless scrolling through menus looking for a specific item or setting. Now, one more thing to mention is that many of the dedicated buttons are going to behave differently if you press them or long press them. So I'm just going to get out to the main menu here. For example, if I press the arranger, then it takes me to the arranger settings so I can control my variations on the fly. But if I long press arranger, then it's going to take me to arranger settings. So in here, I can do all of the different arranger settings, like my chord detection mode, do I want bass inversion on or off, all these kinds of things. So super intuitive and really well thought out workflow. And a few other buttons are going to allow me to quickly turn something on or off by long pressing a button or drill down into the appropriate submenu by short pressing that button. So examples here would be things like if I want to turn the mic effects on, I can long press that. Now you can hear my effects. And I long press it to turn that off again, but if I short press it, then I'm going to see all of the different options for configuring the mic effects. So once again, super intuitive. So selecting voices, there's actually lots of ways to do this, but I'm just going to quickly go over the basics here. When the main screen is displaying the current voice, which is concert piano, which is in the acoustic piano category, the out-of-the-box behavior is for the first voice in a category to be displayed when I press any of these main category buttons. So for example, if I press electric piano, it's going to give me a 70s suitcase piano, like a Rhodes. Now if I keep pressing that, nothing's going to happen, but I can start making different choices by just turning the wheel. Or if I want to see a list of them, I can press list, and then I can scroll through the list to make choices. And you can notice it says ePiano 1. That kind of implies there might be an ePiano 2. How do I get there? Well, there's a category button here where I can go into subcategories for each of these. So if I press that, now you can see I've got ePiano 1, ePiano 2. So now I can go in there and choose it that way. So lots of different ways to get at your voices there and to drill down and find them. Now, one thing to mention, and I'm going to do this with the other section because it's just a better example. If I press other, it starts with organs. So I want some kind of a Hammond organ there. And if I press list, then you can see my list. And then I press category. Because there's so many different kinds of voices that are all landing in this other category, this subcategory list makes it super useful. So here I'm like out of the organs and into different kinds of keyboards like harpsichords and claves. Now I'm down into harmonicas. Now I'm into the guitar section. So if you're looking for a specific kind of voice, this makes it a really quick and easy way to find it. Let's say I want to find a saxophone. There I am. So I mentioned that it's the out-of-the-box behavior for when you press these main voice category buttons that it takes you to the first voice in that category. Well, you can also use these buttons as kind of a favorites type of functionality where you can assign what voice you want each one of these buttons to jump to. This is kind of interesting and it might be useful, but I'm going to leave that the way it is until I get much more familiar with my Go keys. Now, one last thing I did want to mention about the user interface is just the menu button up here. This allows you to access global options and settings. And the one I wanted to show you is the mixer. So I want to choose that. I can control the relative volume levels for the keyboard, voice, the style, the scene, and the audio that's being played back, if there is any. This is fantastic, having all of these in one place where you can adjust things. Let's say the style is too loud relative to my keyboard. I can just quickly and easily turn that down on the fly while I'm playing even. So why is this awesome to have this in one place? Well, lots of keyboards have the ability to adjust relative volumes between different things like the style and the main voice. But what they make you do is drill down into a menu, go find the volume for the keyboard, adjust that, then go find the volume for the style and adjust that, etc. So having all of this in one place where you can adjust them all at the same time is fantastic. So my opinion on the user interface on the Roland Go Keys 3 and 5, it is really awesome. I quite like it. So great job, Roland. Okay, so rhythms and accompaniment, or styles. There are 203 styles built into the Go keys, and as I mentioned earlier, you can add styles from the Roland Cloud if you want to. Now, while I've owned multiple Arranger keyboards, and I am reasonably familiar with what some of the different brands may do well or may not do so well, I'm definitely not an expert on what styles are considered old-fashioned versus cool and modern. But Roland has been marketing the Go Keys style selection as being much more modern and updated than what you're going to find on most Arrangers. And even I was able to kind of notice that pretty quickly as I browsed through many of the styles, in particular ones that I would be likely to use, which would be rock, blues, and ballad styles. I didn't see the typical 8-beat swing or 8-beat straight or whatever kinds of generic blues styles. Instead, I'm seeing a lot of styles that sound, for lack of a better description, funkier and groovier. Now, just a heads up, there are a ton of features here that I want to talk about, so I'm going to be focusing on the features themselves as opposed to just demoing a bunch of styles. I'll try to find time to make a video on that down the road. Okay, so the styles themselves are used by both the Arranger and the chord sequencer. So if I press the Style button, that is going to open up the menu where I can choose a style, similar to the way that you choose voices. You can use the wheel to scroll through them. You can hit the category to drill down to different categories. I'm going to go to rock, hit enter, and I'm going to choose this tight 8 style. Now note that while I'm in the screen, I can also use the left and the right buttons to go through the different categories. You know, I'm in ballad, traditional, contemporary, etc. So go back to here and choose that tight 8 rock style. And note that the bank button is just actually going to list every single style in the entire keyboard in numerical order. Okay, so to play the Go keys as an Arranger keyboard, I need to turn the chord sequencer off first. It's actually on by default. You can tell when it's on because the light is on. So I'm going to hold down this button, long press it. That turns the chord sequencer off. So I could just press play now and the style's going to start up. Before I do that, actually, I want to be able to talk while I'm doing all of this. So I'm going to hit menu, I'm going to go to mixer, choose style, and I'm just going to use the mixer to turn the relative volume of the style down a little bit so you guys can hear me while I'm talking while the style's going. Press exit to get out of there. So if I go ahead and press play, it's going to follow my chord changes, and I'm actually going to press the Arranger button so that you can see what chords I'm playing. So you can see that it's following my chord changes. Now, when I've pressed that Arranger button, that's what opens up the Arranger menu. So this is going to be how I'm going to switch between different variations. I'm on 3 right now. Switch to 1. Got a little fill in there. So this is a planar variation. Then up to 2. And I'll jump all the way up to 4. So that one's got a lot more going on in it. Now I can also mute the different parts. If I hit mute, I could, let's say I just want to have drums and bass. Or I could mute the bass as well if I just wanted to have drums. So that's super, super handy. And then I can just go back to the Arranger screen here. I can trigger an ending. The ending and the intro are actually controlled with the left and right arrow buttons. So I'll trigger an ending here. Now, if I'd wanted to have an intro, I could have pressed the left button before starting it. You see the intro starts to flash, and then when I hit play, I get the little count in there. So it's super cool. So let's take a look at the settings we've got available here because there are a ton, including some pretty cool and unique ones. So to get to the Arranger menu, to work with the Arranger stuff while you're playing, you just hit the Arranger button once. But if I want to go to the Arranger settings, I long press it, then all the settings open up here. Okay, so the first setting is the chord detection mode. And there are 5 options here, depending whether you're in single, split, or dual. I'll get to that in a second. You might be disappointed if you hear that there's only 5, but you'd be jumping to conclusions because Roland actually has very cleverly incorporated some things that are normally hardwired into other chord detection modes that are now things you can include or not include with any of the main detection modes. So to make a long story short, you have got a lot of options and a lot of flexibility here. So the default mode is actually pianist. And this mode is only going to work if you are in single or dual mode, which is layered. If I go into split mode, then it's actually going to switch me to a different keyboard detection mode instead. And then if I go back to single or dual, then it's going to put me back in pianist mode. So the way pianist mode works is it detects chords when 3 or more keys are pressed, and it does use the entire keyboard for chord detection, which being predominantly a piano player, I love that. So for example, let's just go back to the arranger screen so we can see what the chords are that are being detected. I'm going to hit play. I'm going to press a C chord. Go to a G chord, and then back to a C. Now, if I only press 2 keys, I'll play the first 2 keys of a D minor chord. You can see that it's not detecting that, and that's because I need to press at least 3 keys. So I'm going to press the 3rd key of a D minor chord, but I'm going to do that way up here. And you can see that it's now detected the D minor chord. So super, super cool. The next chord detection mode I'm going to talk about is Pianist 2. Pianist 2 also only works in single or dual mode. One thing that Pianist 2 does, though, is it will detect chords when 3 or more keys are pressed and or sustained using the sustain pedal. Also uses the entire keyboard for chord detection. So basically it works exactly the same as Pianist does, except it's also going to include any notes that are being sustained in the chord detection. So for example, go back out of here again. Start the style up, get back to my C chord. So now this time I'm going to hold down the sustain pedal and I'm going to hit that C chord again. So I've got the sustain pedal down now. Now if I just press this 1 key, you can see it switched to a C7, and that's because it's using the 3 notes that I was sustaining as well as this note here, which is basically a C7 chord. So that's super cool. If I stop that and I switch back to pianist mode and do the same thing, go back to my C chord. Okay, now I'm holding the sustain pedal down. See, it's not switching to C7 this time, and that's because it's ignoring the notes that are being sustained. So some cool options there. Okay, now the next mode I'm going to talk about is standard. So this is kind of the normal chord detection mode you're going to find on almost any arranger, where chords are only detected on the lower portion of the keyboard, so below the split point. And this works in single, split, or dual modes. There's something unique here though, which is very cool. If I play in split mode, which I'm about to set up, so I'm in split mode now, you can choose whether you want to hear the notes your left hand is playing with a lower auto mute setting, which is right there. Now it defaults to on, so when I'm in split mode, I'm not going to hear my left hand, but I could set that to off and then I could hear my left hand. So let's just demo that. So I'll play a F chord down here. So you can see the chord is changing up to a G and back to a C. But you can't hear what my left hand is playing. Now if I go to those arranger settings, and I go down to lower auto mute is off, and then I do the same thing. This time you're going to hear my lower voice. Now just to confirm what my lower voice is, it's actually a character string, so you're going to hear a strings voice this time. So I'm going to go up to an F chord. It's kind of hard to hear actually, but you should be able to hear that. The strings voice coming in there. So that's a super cool option to have at your disposal. Now the next mode to talk about is intelligent mode. I'm just going to turn this lower auto mute back on here. So a lot of arranger keyboards are going to have some kind of a wizard mode aimed at beginners, where you can play more advanced chords with fewer keys than you would normally need to use, using some kind of weird system. I have never been a fan of these because you're just training a beginner in bad habits. You're often teaching them some shortcut key combination that includes notes that aren't even in the actual chord. So I love what Roland did here with the intelligent mode. The keyboard is basically going to guess at what chord you are playing based on what keys you play. This allows you as a beginner to start out just playing root notes and you'll get a major chord. But then you can start adding in more notes of an actual real chord, like let's say a minor third, and you'll get a minor chord. This is awesome because it allows beginners to start simple and then gradually start playing more complete chords as they're able to, but they are learning to play real chords in the process. So let's just demo that real quick. So I could just press an F key and I'll get an F major chord. But this time I'm going to press a G and a minor third of the G. So you can see I get a G minor that way. And that's very cool because that's actually part of a full G minor triad. So you're actually, a beginner's actually learning real chords in the process, but they can kind of work on it in steps to get up to the full chord fingering. So that's awesome. Okay, so the final mode I want to talk about is the easy mode. Now, the easy mode actually is one of these wizard modes that I'm not a fan of, but let's demo it anyway. So, and this only works in split mode, by the way. So I'm going to hit easy, then go back out here again, and I'm actually going to just demo this while I'm talking. So if I just press a single note, I can press B flat. I'll get a B flat major, back up to C. That's fine. But the way that this works is the rightmost key that you press is going to define what the root note is, and then you can signify a couple of other different chord types by pressing different key combinations that are kind of wizard combinations to the left of that key. So for example, if I press any black key that is to the left of this C, I'll get a C minor. It could be this black key, doesn't matter. So what happens if I press the black key to the right of it? Well, I'm getting an E flat 7. That's because this is the rightmost key, so that's defining the root. So it's kind of goofy and confusing. If I press any white key to the left of my root note, I'm going to get a 7th. And again, it could be that key, doesn't matter. And if I press a white and a black key to the left of my root note, then I'm going to get a minor 7th, and it could be any white and black key. I get a minor 7th. But as I mentioned before, these modes kind of drive me crazy because they're just teaching bad habits. Let's say I'm a beginner and I just learned what a G major chord is. If I play that G major triad in my left hand in easy mode, I'm getting a D7. And why is that? Because the rightmost key is the root, so that's D, and if I press any white key to the left of a D, I get a 7th chord. So I do not recommend to anybody, beginner or not, to use this mode. So what about all the other chord detection modes you might be familiar with, like fingered on bass, for example? Well, that's where we take a look at some of the other arranger settings. Okay, so the next option is bass inversion. So I'm going to start this style back up. Get my C major chord going. Now let's say I want to play a inversion. So I'm going to play this C major. It's still detecting C major, but this is a slash chord. This is where the G, which is the 5th, is actually being played below. Now a lot of arranger keyboards will have something called fingered on bass, which is going to detect that and give me the slash chord, so C over G. So how do I do that with the Go Keys 5? I go back into the arranger settings and I can turn on bass inversion. Let's do that, and I'm just going to go do exactly what I just did. So listen carefully to the bass here. You can see it's detected the C over G, but you can hear that bass note is playing the G, right? As opposed to C. So having that as a separate setting is actually really, really cool because then you can incorporate that into the different chord detection modes. Okay, so the next option is arranger hold. I'm just going to turn bass inversion back off. Now, arranger hold, when this is on, the keyboard is going to continue to play the last chord it detected using whatever the current detection mode is. But if you turn it off, it's only going to play accompaniment while you hold down a detected chord, but the drums will keep going. So, for example, if I press a G chord, I let go, it's still playing a G chord. But if I turn arranger hold off, First of all, you can hear there's only drums there, right? Let's press a C. As soon as I let go, the accompaniment, the bass and the accompaniment stop. So I would never actually use this myself, but some old school arranger keyboard players who are used to playing this way, where they're always holding down the chord with their left hand, might actually like this mode because it's a way to easily insert some drum-only breaks into a song. So next option is the lower auto mute, which we already covered. Then you've got options for long or short intros. Now the short intro tends to be from the styles that I've tried out so far myself. The intros and endings tend to be just a single bar, single measure. Sometimes it's just a count in, which I really like actually. And there's no options other than short or long. And the long ones can be really long. So I'm just going to switch this intro to long here. Let's go to here and we'll have the intro starting. Let's see how long this intro is. That's a long intro, so I probably wouldn't use that myself, but it is there if you want it. So I've got to say, the arranger features on the new Go Keys keyboards are fantastic, especially with all this versatility that these various settings and chord detection modes have to offer. Okay, so now on to probably the single coolest feature that Roland has included on the Go Keys 3 and 5, which is a chord sequencer. I first saw this functionality on the Roland FPE 50 digital piano, and I was blown away with it, so I was super excited to see this included on these new keyboards. So what does this actually do? Well, it allows you to enter a chord sequence or even a chord chart for an entire song, and then have the keyboard use any of the built-in styles to play that chord chart back to you at any tempo that you like. That is super, super cool. This is such an awesome feature. It's like having a program that isn't cheap, like Band in a Box, built right into your keyboard. I mostly play with a band nowadays, but I do intend to do some occasional busking and small performances in cafes, that type of thing. So I've always been super interested in ways to make backing tracks to play along with. I've made them myself using arranger keyboards or with programs like Band in a Box. I've purchased professional ones online, and I've used apps like JamZone or iReal Pro as well. But this chord sequencer feature opens up massive new options for being able to create my own easily modifiable backing tracks that isn't going to cost me anything. So one of my first deep dive videos on the Go Keys is definitely going to be on the chord sequencer. I'm planning on a video where I can create a chord chart for an entire song. So I'm not going to dive in too deep here, but I just want to show you what you're going to be able to do with this feature. Roland has included a staggering 304 built-in chord patterns for you to play along with. So I'm going to start with one of these. Now these aren't full songs, they're just a few measures each, but I can use this to demo how the sequencer works. And to be honest, I've already found these built-in patterns to be super useful and super fun as a quick and easy way to practice solos, to write melodies, or just practice playing along with a band. So before I get into that, I'm actually going to choose a ballad style. So I'm going to choose style and go to the categories and go to ballad. And I'll go down here to piano ballad. Now to enable the chord sequencer, I long press the chord sequencer button. So now I'm in chord sequencer mode. So now the difference between that and the arranger mode is that when I start this style up, it is not going to follow what I'm doing on the keyboard at all. It's just going to play whatever the built-in chord pattern is. So I'm going to short press the chord sequencer button. And this is the chord pattern that shows up. Now I can go to a list and choose a different one. I'm actually going to go right up to the top here. Which one shows up is actually tied to which scene you've loaded. I'm going to choose the first pattern here. That one, I don't know if you recognize those chords, but that is a very, very common chord pattern in modern music. It's a 1-5-6-4, so it's the first C, the fifth G, sixth A minor, and the fourth F, and that's in the key of C. You'll recognize that the second that I start playing it. Now I'm also going to just switch the tempo here. Piano ballad default's pretty slow, so I'm going to up this to around 100 or so. And exit out of there. Now I can press the arranger button once, though, to get the controls back up to switch variations and deal with intros and that kind of stuff. So let's check this out. When I press play, you can see it's going to C, G, and I'm not doing anything. This is all happening by itself. But I could play along. And if I play something that's wrong, that's not affecting the chords that are being played. But I can still use all of these arranger features like the variations. So that is super, super cool. So if I'm not totally familiar with that chord progression, I knew what it was, so I could easily play along with it. But if I'm not, I could press the chord sequencer button, and then I can see all 4 chords at the same time, and I can also play along with it here. Just on this screen, I don't have the ability to go switch the variations and that type of thing. And this is just going to keep on going and going and going. But once I'm familiar with it, I go to the arranger screen, I still get the current chord displayed, but then I have the ability to switch variations and do all of that kind of stuff. Okay, so playing along with these built-in progressions is great, but here's where it gets super cool. You can start with one of these built-in chord progressions and edit the chords to your liking, or even cooler, you can actually write your own progression and make it as long as you want, and even enough for an entire song. And you can even set the progression to automatically change variations at any point that you like. Now, as I mentioned, I will be doing a deep dive video into this feature in a few weeks, so I'm just going to give you a quick taste here of what you're going to be able to do. So if I press the chord sequencer buttons, then I'm going to go over to this F chord, and then go into the settings, press enter here, and then now I'm in edit mode, so I could change the root of that. See, I'm highlighted on root here. I could make it an E chord, or I could also change the type of the chord. So let's say I'm going to change it to an F7. Now I could also, I'm just going to put that back to here, I could also play an F7 on the keyboard, and it's going to create that chord for me as well. So lots of different choices on how you do this. If I wanted to have a slash chord, I could go in here and say F7 over C. And you get a slash chord, that type of thing. Super cool. And I can even press play while I'm in here and hear how this new version of my progression is going to sound. Super cool. Now, something else I can do here that's really, really neat is, let's say whenever I hit this F7, I want the variation to change. So I want it to go to, let's just say variation 4. You can even choose fills, that type of thing. Awesome. So I'm going to choose variation 4. Now, just so that when it swings back around, I'm going to go to C and say for C, I want variation 1. So now listen to the background on this one. It's variation 1. It's nice and simple. Isn't that awesome? Let's switch back to variation 1 again. So think about that if you're putting in a chord progression for an entire song. You can actually control how the background's going to play it, whether it's going to pick up intensity, reduce intensity, all of that kind of stuff. Now, if I exit out of this screen and go to the menu, writing it is going to save that over top of the existing progression. Chord edit gets me back to where I was, but I can also go in here, do things like determine whether or not there's going to be an intro and or ending, what the intro and ending are going to be, the long or the short one. I can go into settings. I can change, this is how I'm going to change how many measures this song is. And then I could even transpose it. So if I wanted to, let's say I wanted to play that same progression, but I want to play in a different key this time, I could move it up or down to do that. Also super cool. And then in utility, this is going to be basically advanced editing options for copy and paste and that type of thing. So if you want to, you can create a chord chart for an entire song, complete with an intro, ending, and you can choose when to have the variations switch to control the intensity, and then you can play this same chord progression with any of the built-in styles. This is an absolutely fantastic feature. I'm really looking forward to creating a full backing track and demoing all of this in a deep dive video, so stay tuned for that. And one other thing I hope to include in that video, You can export chord patterns to a CSV file and edit them in a spreadsheet like Excel or Numbers, and you can also import CSV files back into the keyboard. Okay, connectivity. For connectivity, the GoKeys 5 pretty much knocks it out of the park. It has pretty much everything you could possibly ask for, and then some. Connectivity is one of the biggest differences between the GoKeys 5 and the GoKeys 3, so I will go over the connectivity for the GoKeys 3 first, and then I'll explain the differences and what the GoKeys 5 adds. Okay, so connectivity on the GoKeys 3. There's Bluetooth audio in. This allows you to stream audio from an external device into the keyboard, so you can stream in YouTube videos or piano lessons or whatever, backing tracks to play along with. Bluetooth MIDI out. This allows you to use the keyboard as a MIDI controller with MIDI-compatible apps. Now, big note here, this connection does not work as you or I would expect. I was sure that this was not a feature available in this keyboard at first. I'm going to go into that in a minute. There's a 1/8 inch stereo headphone out. So for the GoKeys 3, this doubles as your audio out for connecting to external audio equipment like amps, PAs, mixers, etc. There's a 1/4 inch hold pedal port. That's for a sustain pedal. There's a USB to host port, and it's USB-C to connect to external devices. This transmits MIDI as well as audio in both directions because there's a built-in audio interface. As I've mentioned to you in many other reviews, this is a fantastic feature because that allows you to make a piano video with high-quality direct audio with just a USB cable in your phone, stream digital audio direct to a DAW app on a device to record audio, use your keyboard as a MIDI controller and hear the audio generated by your MIDI sound bank come back through the piano speakers and headphones without any lag. And all of this can be done without needing an external audio interface. Now, just a note here too, something I learned that might be useful, maybe all of you Android owners out there already know this, but not all USB-C cables transmit data. I tried a bunch of them and they weren't working, and I thought there was something wrong with the keyboard, but I found out that many of them are charge only, so those are not going to work as a MIDI cable. For those, you need to make sure you get a USB-C to USB-A cable that is charge and sync. That means it's going to transfer data as well as charge. Then there's a USB-A port for connecting a USB flash drive for backing up or loading data, or for using the Roland Cloud connector transmitter, the WC1 device. And the GoKeys 5 adds quite a bit of connectivity. There's left and right 1/4 inch line-out ports for proper connections to external audio equipment like amps and PAs and mixers and things. And the left can be used by itself for a blended left and right mono signal if needed. There's a 1/4 inch expression pedal port that can be customized for each tone. It's usually used for controlling whatever effect is assigned to that tone. I use it for controlling the rotary speaker speed on the organ voices that I've been using. There's a 1/8 inch stereo audio input port as a wired option for streaming in external audio from a device if you'd rather use that than the Bluetooth. There's also a second USB-A port. So one of the ports will be used for accessing data on a flash drive. But then the second one, you can leave the Roland Cloud WC1 connector connected to that at all times if you have one. There's a mic input with reverb, compressor, 9 types of auto harmony, and a voice transformer. You can set the volume of the mic relative to the voices, styles, and audio in, and there is a gain control within the menu system. Big note here too, you can also use a headset mic that is connected to the headphone port as a mic, and this mic has its own separate gain control in the menu as well and will also work. And all the effects are going to work on that mic as well. Now, I will be doing a separate deep dive video on using the mic features, but guess what? This entire review is being recorded with this mic connected to the GoKeys mic input, and the GoKeys is connected directly to my iPhone, which is recording this video. And all of this works super easily because of that built-in USB audio interface. I am not using an external audio interface or mixer or anything in the making of this video. So just to quickly demo what you can do with the mic here, I can turn the mic off by long pressing the mic button. So you couldn't hear me there because the mic was off. And if I short press the mic button, I can adjust mic volume levels, and I can adjust reverb levels. Right now I've got the reverb turned off. Glad I remembered to do that before recording this video. But I can add some reverb to it if I want, which I would do if I was singing. Cover up that voice of mine. Then for effects, same thing. I can short press the mic effects button to configure a whole bunch of different options for editing vocal harmonies or voice transformer. So I just turned on some vocal harmonies, and the effects are back off again. And I can also turn those mic effects on and off by long pressing the button and short pressing it to turn it back off. Okay, so what's the deal with the Bluetooth MIDI on the GoKeys keyboards? When I got my keyboard, the Roland website had kind of implied that it has Bluetooth MIDI, but the manual doesn't even mention Bluetooth MIDI, never mind tell you how to actually connect it. I tried with my iPhone, iPad, and MacBook to connect, but all of those devices, they could only see the Bluetooth audio, which worked fine. I looked online, I listened to tons of other reviews and videos, and I even asked some other reviewers, and I was basically told there's no Bluetooth MIDI on this keyboard. So I tried contacting Roland, and I got a response. You don't use the Bluetooth connections on your device to connect Bluetooth MIDI. You look for settings within your app to connect to the keyboard. So I was skeptical, but I went into GarageBand on my iPad. I went to settings, the gear icon in the top right, then advanced settings, then Bluetooth MIDI devices, and there it was. And then as soon as I clicked on it to connect, it worked exactly as expected. Now, all that being said, I never use Bluetooth MIDI anyways because I always find it too laggy to be much of a benefit, so I always use a cable connection for MIDI. But if this is a feature you want, it is in there on the Roland GoKeys. Roland's just kind of hiding it. Not sure why. But overall, the connectivity on the GoKeys 3 is pretty good, but the connectivity on the GoKeys 5 is fantastic. Okay, so recording. You can record either MIDI or audio with the GoKeys keyboards. MIDI recordings are stored on the keyboard's internal memory. For audio recordings, you need to connect a USB flash drive. Since MIDI recordings are data only, they won't include your mic or any external audio being streamed in, but the audio recordings will include everything you hear. Your playing, the accompaniment, the mic, and any audio being streamed into the keyboard. You can replay the MIDI recordings, but you can't edit them at all. However, with the audio recordings, Roland has included a super cool and really simple overdub function which allows you to add additional audio to an existing audio track. But it saves this as a new audio file, so it retains your original one. That's really cool. So if I press record, if I have a USB flash drive connected, I'll be able to switch back and forth between MIDI and audio to choose what kind of recording I want to make. So I'm going to choose MIDI. Now you can notice the red light is flashing there. So the recording is going to start either when I press record, when I start the style playing, or if I start playing. So I'm going to start the style, and then I'm just going to play for a couple of seconds, and I'll also talk over it. So let's check this out. This is me talking over the recording. Then I hit record again to stop it. Now you're going to see a list of all the MIDI songs that I've saved, and it's automatically gave it a name. From here, I can replay it, which I'll do. So notice you didn't hear my vocals in that, and that's because that's a MIDI recording. Now also, if I wanted to, I could rename this by hitting enter and then hit rename and give it a new name, that type of thing. But I'm not able to edit it in any way. So I'm just going to delete it. Okay, so let's move on to the audio recording. So I'm going to hit record again, and I'm going to hit audio this time. Now I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I am going to start the style up to start playing the accompaniment. Then I'm going to play a little bit, and I'm going to talk over the recording again. This is me talking over the audio recording. So just like with the MIDI recordings, I get a list of all of the songs that I've recorded so far. You're going to notice it says USB, and that's because all the audio songs are recorded to the USB drive. So let's just take a listen to this. This is me talking over the audio recording. So So that time you could hear that the vocals did come through, and that's because it's an audio recording. So you're going to get the vocals, and you'll also get any other audio that you're streaming into the keyboard from a device. Now you notice this overdub tab here. This is a very cool feature. What this is going to allow me to do is overdub my original audio recording and add some more stuff to it. So I'm going to hit that, and then I'm going to talk and play some more over top of the existing recording. So when I press overdub, the record light starts flashing. And this time, instead of hitting play, because I don't want to duplicate the accompaniment, I'm just going to hit record. This is me talking over the audio recording. Now I'll play some more and talk some more. Now you notice it stopped automatically, and that's because I'm just overdubbing a 10-second recording. So I got another 10-second recording, but super cool that Roland doesn't overwrite the first one. It creates a second one for you. So in case you make a mistake, you can always just delete the second one and go back and do it again. So let's take a listen to the second one. This is me talking over the audio recording. Now I'll play some more and talk some more. Okay, so how cool is that? Now, same as with the MIDI recordings, I could hit enter and I could rename it, that type of thing. Or I could just go ahead and delete it, etc. So the recording feature on the Go Keys, especially the Go Keys 5 with the mic input, is fantastic, especially the audio version with the easy ability to overdub. Something to note here that's also super cool is, let's say you've used the chord sequencer to input a complete song. Then you can turn on the chord sequencer, load your chord pattern, choose your style, press record, and then you're going to generate an audio backing track on the flash drive that you could then move to other devices and use as a backing track on those. That is a really cool feature. Now, one other just quick short thing to note is I've been recording this entire video with my Roland Go Keys connected directly to my iPhone with a USB cable. If you are trying to do an audio recording at the same time that you have your keyboard connected to your phone doing a video recording, the video recording isn't going to work while you're doing the audio recording. I found that out while I was doing this. So basically, when you're recording audio, that's not going to allow you to record a video on your phone at the same time, which is fine. Okay, so scenes or registrations. Now onto the scenes, which are basically Roland's word for registrations to save your current setup. That's going to include your selected tones, any customized settings or effects, your style settings, your chord pattern for the chord sequencer, your mic and mic effect settings, etc. So there are 256 scenes that you can save, which is awesome, and it's super easy to work with. Now, something to mention right off the bat is that the Go Keys actually works like stage keyboards work. When you turn on a stage keyboard and when you turn on the Go Keys, you're actually loading a scene. So the default scene on the Go Keys is called Electropop. If I press scene, you're going to see a scene list, and scene number 1, U001, is Electropop. The scene is happens to have a concert piano as the upper voice, strings as the lower voice. It's got Electropop as the style. Now you're going to note, well, I guess first of all, that they named the scene after the style, so that makes sense. But this isn't style number 1. This is style number 103. And if I go over to the chord sequencer and I look at the chord pattern that's in here, it's this 4-measure thing that starts with an F chord. So if I go back to the scene menu, now I'm going to move to a different scene. Now, as soon as I've moved there, I've suddenly got some mic effects. That's because that scene has mic effects built in. So I've just turned that reverb off so that it doesn't get too annoying. But when I go back to the main menu here, you'll see it's switched my upper voice to electric piano, my lower voice to whatever that is. And you can also see it's the smooth drift style. So once again, the scene is named after the style. And if I go to the chord sequencer, it's got a totally different chord pattern in here. So that's exactly how stage keyboards work. In contrast, on a keyboard like the Yamaha PSR E473, when you turn the keyboard on, you're going to have a default voice and maybe some default effects assigned to that voice, and you'll have a default style selected. But that combination isn't actually saved as a registration or a scene. It just happens to be the default voice and style. So I just loaded the scene list up. There's 65 scenes that come built into the Go Keys, and these are just stored in the first 65 user scene slots. So if you want to create your own scene, you could either start by editing an existing scene and then overwriting it in its current slot, or you could write it to a new slot. Now, I'm going to give you an example of that, but I just want to scroll through this list first. But as I do that, I'm not going to talk because the effects are going to come on, and that's going to be irritating. But just look for the scene names, and then once I get to about 65 or 66, that's when you're going to see empty scene slots. So you can see how the scene 65, Tango, is the final scene that came with the keyboard. Then from 66 on, you've got an initial scene. So as a quick example, I'm going to go back to the first scene, and I'm just going to make a change and then save it, and we'll check that out. Okay, so I'm back on scene 001, and I'm going to switch the lower voice from character strings to a pad, because I'd rather have a pad. So let's check that out. I like this soft warm pad, so I'm going to choose that. Then I'm going to go back here and just make the upper voice the default voice that's going to be selected. And I'll go ahead and save my scene now. So I can press scene here. Now I can either save it over top of the existing one, so it's going to overwrite it, or I could scroll to one of those other scene slots and save it there. Normally I'd scroll to an empty one, but I actually want to have my, when I turn the keyboard on, and that's what's going to be loaded is the first scene, I actually want to have the warm pad ready to go. So I'm just going to save it in this slot and overwrite it. So I'll click on write, hit enter, and then I'm going to name this to piano default. Now one of the only things I really don't like about the Go keys is when you're using the little naming feature. As soon as I hit store that P, jumps back to the start of the alphabet. And a lot of the other ones I'm used to don't do that. They stay where you were. So probably get used to it and it'll be fine. And I press execute and then confirm that I want to write that. Now that's going to be the scene that loads when I turn on the keyboard. It's going to have my soft warm pad in there. So the scenes are pretty simple and easy to use, and they work really well. And something to note here, if you plan on using the chord sequencer to make backing tracks, then you can save your chord pattern in a scene named after the song. Select the style you want and set the tempo and do all of that kind of stuff. Then when you load the scene for this song, it's ready to go, and all you got to do is press play. For a solo performer or a busker, that is an awesome feature. One thing I do wish Roland had also done, though, and maybe they could add this in a future update one day, is to include the currently selected song. If you've got song files, WAV files loaded on your flash drive, include that in the scene as well, because right now it's not included. Then, if you're using pre-recorded WAV files as backing tracks instead of the chord sequencer, you'd be able to select a scene specific to a certain song. You'd also have that backing track ready to go without having to select it. But still, having the chord pattern loaded when you select a scene does give you a really good backing track option. And 256 registrations is fantastic to see. Okay, some other things to mention, the speakers. For speakers, the Go Keys 3 has two 12 by 6 centimeter speakers, and the Go Keys 5 has two 5 centimeter speakers with a speaker box and two radiators. Looks like Roland is being all secretive about the wattage of these speakers. It's not indicated on the specs of their websites, and I haven't been able to find any detailed info online. Kind of a silly thing to do, but whatever. I haven't heard the speakers of the Go Keys 3, so I can't comment on those, but the speakers on the 5 sound pretty good. I like the fact that they face the player and not down or backwards, and the fact that the Go Keys 5 includes a speaker box is going to help the speakers have a bit of a fuller sound. As far as how many watts, I have no idea, but they sound decent enough to me. The following video is recorded using the speakers at 50% volume, just as picked up by the internal mic on my iPhone. Okay, portability. The Go Keys keyboards are super portable. The Go Keys 3 is a slim and narrow 37.5 inches by 11.5 inches and is super thin at only 3.5 inches high, and it weighs around 10 pounds. The Go Keys 5 has the identical dimensions and only weighs a tiny bit more at just under 11 pounds, so this is awesome. So what's missing? The only notable thing that's missing on either the Go Keys 3 or the 5 is an included music rest. Many people nowadays, like me, never use printed sheet music anymore, but even those people could really use a music rest to hold a tablet or a phone. There is a music rest sold separately, and it's only about $35, so why not just include it and charge a bit more? Other than that, not really much that's missing on the Go Keys 5. Most of what's missing on the Go Keys 3 is connectivity, which is included on the Go Keys 5. Okay, so the competition. The most direct competitor for the Go Keys 5 that I'm familiar with would be the Yamaha PSR E473. I own the 76 key version of that, which is the EW425. The E473 does sell for about $370, with the Go Keys 5 selling for about $500, so it is a little bit less expensive. I was and still am super impressed with the PSR E473 and EW425 keyboards. I said in my review on those at the time that they are the best value budget gigging keyboards available, as long as you're not looking for a fully weighted key action. But I have to say, I think the Go Keys 5 is my new favorite. The sounds on both of these models are great, so I'm not going to bother comparing that here. I'm focused more on functionality. I will include sound comparisons when I do a direct video shootout between these two great keyboards at a future date. So pros on the Go Key 5. Much better key action for piano players and organists. The keys feel semi-weighted and they're true full-size keys as opposed to the slightly narrower and super light synth action keys you're going to find on the Yamaha. Although you might like those better if you're primarily a synth player. The Go Keys is far more portable. It's less bulky and lighter. Far better chord detection options. There's 4 options, including full keyboard chord detection with options to hear or mute your left hand. Yamaha only has 2 with no full keyboard options. There's a chord sequencer built into the Go Keys. It's super easy to overdub audio recordings on the Go Keys. The user interface has less direct access buttons, but overall the workflow I find to be much better. The PSR E-Series does have a great user interface, but there seems to be a lot more scrolling through menus than there is on the Go Keys. There's 256 registrations or scenes versus 32 on the Yamaha. There's an expression pedal input on the Roland. There's Bluetooth audio in. There's a headset mic included as an additional mic option, and the ability to add more styles and sounds. You can do this on the Yamaha, but it's much more limited. So pros on the PSR E473. There's 2 live control knobs for controlling effects. That's pretty cool. And there's more options for muting style parts, and you can also re-voice style parts if you want to. There's also better MIDI recording functionality. You can punch in, punch out, that type of thing, as opposed to the Roland, just basically press record and record your track. The E473 is also about $100 cheaper. So the EW425, that actually sells for about the same as the Go Keys 5. And in that case, the advantage would be it has 76 keys versus 61 and huge speakers. There's 24 watts of speaker power on the 425. Their own speaker wattage isn't documented, but I can guarantee you that they're not as loud as the speakers on the EW425. So as impressed as I was with the Yamaha PSR E473 and EW425 when they were released, I think the Roland Go Keys 5 has outdone those keyboards. Keep in mind, though, that these Yamahas are a couple of years old now, so maybe Yamaha has new versions up their sleeves that might match up better with Roland. We'll have to wait and see. Okay, so the verdict on the Roland Go Keys 5 and 3. The Go Keys 5 is a fantastic keyboard, and I highly recommend it. Tons of great sounds, and you can add more if 1154 is not enough. True full-size piano-shaped keys with a decent semi-weighted feel. Great user interface with dedicated buttons for the most commonly needed tasks, and a nice screen with context-sensitive buttons and a very well-thought-out workflow. Really good chord detection modes and options. A chord sequencer is an absolutely amazing feature, especially for people like me that like playing along with backing tracks. Every type of connectivity you could possibly want, including a really well-done mic input with an impressive gain and some cool effects. Super easy to use audio recording feature that includes easy overdubbing. Audio interface built into the USB to host port, and it's super portable. The Go Keys 5 is now my favorite budget gigging option, especially for smaller shows like cafes or busking, where backing track options and portability are really important. I'm super happy with my purchase. So I've left some links in the description to check out current prices in your area on the Roland Go Keys or on any of the other products I mentioned in this review. And as always, I've left some links to some online piano training that worked really well for me that I can highly recommend. So thanks so much for stopping by, and happy piano playing and happy piano shopping. Have an awesome day.